a top professor at a depopulation talk said that there should be no more shrouding our statements in code. Again, ultimately talking about the eugenics agenda for depopulation of the dirty masses like all of us. That's basically what Carol Quigley, Bill Clinton's mentor, the author of Tragedy and Hope, that folks were never really meant to read, where he had the opportunity to investigate the papers in the background of the Council on Foreign Relations and others, and he said he was all about their Fabian socialist agenda. His only disagreement was that they wanted to do it in secret and by stealth. No more shrouding our statements in code. I just saw this morning, posted it up under History Mystery on this news purge from the AP. Sister monument to Stonehenge may have been found. And under our newest subheading on the news purge, holy hexes, that again, we took that term from Reverend Billy on his recent protestations against J.P. Morgan and their murdering the mountaintops of West Virginia. But the couple of things we got under holy hexes this week, and it's worth noting, weighty guests arrive for annual Bohemian Grove. More on that from PressDemocrat.com, and yes, this weekend the Bohemian Grovers start to gather in the California Redwoods, where they perform mock occult rituals, and all the movers and shakers are generally involved, whether it's Kissinger or Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead. And we, of course, always have to note that Richard Nixon noted that the Bohemian Grove was the most faggy goddamn thing you could imagine. Our other holy hex note, watching pop culture, country singer Sarah Evans' ex possessed by Satan? We're not going to get into that. We're going to move on down the news purge list here and get some media memes. Of course, the new Christopher Nolan movie Inception opened last week. I did mention that I did watch Dark Knight yesterday. I guess perhaps in maybe some preparation for maybe going to see Inception. I know that with a Netflix streaming account and a Roku box, my inclination to go out to big overpriced theaters is pretty small. Of course, still like to patronize the small independent theaters, and there's some great ones here in Portland, like the Hollywood Theater. But Dr. Leonard Horowitz notes, and you may or should recall our interview with him at the recent 10th Annual Conspiracy Conference that was at the beginning of June, and we talked to Leonard Horowitz for a quick few minutes. One of his main themes and works is something called the 528 frequency. And we do want to get into this in further detail in the not-too-distant future, but basically the idea that our music is tuned incorrectly. And this incorrect tuning comes from intelligence-connected, multi-generational serial killer think tank workshops that have made us tune and encode our music incorrectly. And he makes the analogy that, if you listen to a radio that has a little bit of static, it can be a little annoying. If you start to get even more static, it starts to drive you crazy. Dr. Leonard Horowitz has done a remix of the trailer for Inception, because apparently, and again, I haven't seen the film yet, Inception has the number 528 replete throughout the film. That again, we see this predictive programming, just like Clyde Lewis was talking about, sci-fi, and these new spiritual memes. Inception and the 528 frequency, that is linked up for you to go down and get more into that. And again, stay tuned for MediaMonarchy.com for more on this, as we do strive to put more media into the monarchy. The other note we add along, just as a nice little background refresher for you, thanks to BrassCheckTV.com, you should, of course, know about Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, or in this case, the assassin of democracy. I do have a degree in media studies, and we should note that the work of Edward Bernays is Communications 101. On to the murder and mayhem, my friends. We have noted and questioned and postulated that there is some type of mass murder contagion. There is a copycat effect. And we're going to start all this off with a link to another great new site that I've just discovered. And again, there's so many fantastic new sites. All kinds of people all around the world. People like you and me. You can start a website. You can start a radio show. You can start a zine. Again, as we said, once we can get people to realize that if we can create our own food and money and media, there's maybe nothing we can't do. But back to the bad stuff. Murder-suicide.blogspot.com. Further from examiner.com, murder suicides on the rise nationwide. If you thought some of the murder mayhem things I brought to you in week to week were a lot, murder-suicide.blogspot.com has a ridiculous amount that we would never want to go into. It seems constant. One strange note here, election official's body found in burning car.
Was this the scene of a random crime or something else? Was this the scene of a random crime or something else? When firefighters put out a vehicle fire on this rural road in eastern Tennessee over the weekend, they made an alarming discovery. They found the body of Jim Miller, a Republican and chairman of the local election commission, in the trunk of the vehicle. The sheriff's department isn't commenting. Instead, it's waiting for preliminary results of an autopsy to be released.
Anytime you call Jim day or night, he was there. He was that type of fella, and he was that way with anybody.
James Brown is the administrator of the county's election commission.
The last time I spoke with him was approximately 12:30 to 15 to 1. It's possible that I was the last person that actually spoke to him.
Early voting has just begun for next month's local general election here. But Miller's fellow commissioners don't think politics had anything to do with his death.
He was always involved in the community with something, trying to help somebody, some cause.
As the sheriff's department continues its investigation, a search of local court records has turned up something interesting. A long history of Miller's legal disputes with his three brothers over their family's farm. Ross Simpson, The Associated Press.
Again, so many strange themes and memes and sinister forces to connect. Texas mom tells 911 she used wire to kill her two children. That's from Yahoo. Loganville man out of Atlanta, this is on myfoxatlanta.com, alleges police brutality after he was beaten by the cops after finding his son had committed suicide. 3 arrested in Beverly Hills stabbing at a movie producer's home. More on that from KMPH.com. Sex offenders questioned in hunt for California killer. And our last note on murder-suicide, we could have put this under war horrors or could have put this under lots of other stories. But this one is kind of going down the memory hole, so here we are to remind you of a story that we did quickly report to you. Marine at the heart of the California stolen files case dies. Marine colonel accused of leaking classified information to an anti-terrorism unit of the L.A. County Sheriff's Department has died. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department says Larry J. Richards was suffering brain, kidney, and liver problems when he died Saturday at his home in Lake Arrowhead, Los Angeles. He was 52. Richards was a Marine reservist and sheriff's detective in 03 and 04 when he allegedly helped leak Marine intel info from Camp Pendleton to an anti-terror task force that he helped organize. He was later called to active Marine duty and was awaiting a military hearing. 4 other Marines have been convicted in the case. The military has not released the nature of the leaked information, and I think those 4 other guys would probably want to watch out and look over their shoulders. That, my friends, is the end of another massive news purge. Future Pixels.